Twice throughout history, the gaming industry has been close to death, and twice throughout history, Nintendo has been credited with revitalizing a near-dead industry. Many people remember the launch of the Nintendo Wii in late 2006. This is a console that saved a multi-billion-dollar industry and sold more than any other console before it. But not many people remember a time in the 80s though, a time where there were so many choices that it was nearly impossible to make one. The second generations of consoles had just ended abruptly in 1984. It wasn't until the next year, 1985, when the NES, or Famicom in Japan, was released. With the release of the NES came an amazing game which inspired more than 30 years of sequels and spin-offs, the very first Super Mario Bros. Welcome to Retro Vertigo, gaming with less than 17 bits. Hi everybody, welcome to the first episode of Retro Vertigo, gaming with less than 17-bit, brand new podcast, obviously because it's new. I am one of the few hosts, John, and we also have Brian.
Hi guys.
Ed.
G'day.
And Ben.
Hello.
As you can probably tell by the intro, which was pre-recorded, so these other guys haven't heard it. Today we're going to be talking about Mario, Super Mario, and...
Mario?
Mario. No one's ever heard of Mario. No one who's played computer games has ever heard of Mario.
Yeah. What do you mean it was pre-recorded? I thought it was awesome.
Well, maybe I'll cut out that pre-recorded bit then.
Is there gonna be like a drum like or something every time someone does a joke?
Plug in my.
I hope so.
I play soundboard.
I think we need.
Yeah, someone needs a soundboard for
Yeah,
sure.
No, we need like the Mario coin, like ding.
Like every now and then put a cut and then.
So far so good. We're
Yep.
off to a good start.
So
Talk about
Mario. What are we gonna go? We're gonna go with Brian. Brian's gonna introduce Mario to us. Who the hell is Mario?
I'm pretty sure everyone knows who Mario is. Anyone who's ever played a video game. He's the most recognizable, one of the most recognizable icons in the world. I think they say he's more famous than Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Time Magazine rated him as the #1 most recognizable computer game character.
How do you verify that though? Like, I mean, obviously it's the most recognizable video game character, but like, they talk about him being more recognizable than Mickey Mouse. You can't really verify those things.
Oh, you can. You can ask a million people, have you heard of Mario? Have you heard of Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, right.
That sounds dumb.
Cold call, and you get people going.
It's called science.
Mario. Oh yeah, before we continue, we better just add in the there may be some off-color language, so we've got a language warning here. Tune out now if you're not really down for language.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Like
Can I-
a child video game like Mario and the age where they.
okay, so Mario basically is Nintendo's flagship character, yeah. So
Yeah,
what?
so I reckon we should go back and talk a little about where Mario, the character, came from.
So he's a plumber, right? That's I'm told he's a plumber from New York.
Apparently, a lot of things. Mario's quite a versatile young fellow.
Professional golfer, professional baseball player, professional tennis player,
Race car driver.
race car.
What he started out as was a car.
A what?
Yeah, so everybody knows by now that Mario first appeared in the 1980 arcade game Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
But he was a carpenter back then, named Jumpman.
Yeah.
And why was he a carpenter? Because he was in a construction site. So apparently that's how they kind of worked out Mario's jobs to begin with. You know, he's in a construction site, so he's going to be a carpenter today.
It was a simpler time. It was a happier time.
I'm just reading on Wikipedia that apparently he mistreated the ape. So
Really?
that's the storyline of Jumpman of Donkey Kong.
Exactly, like Donkey Punch maybe? Like maybe that's what it was.
So the storyline is Mario Donkey punched Kong.
Yeah,
So,
people think that Donkey Kong is like a misspelling of Monkey Kong or something, but actually it's probably from the donkey punching that Mario used to give him all the time.
and then Donkey Kong kidnapped Jumpman's girlfriend, Lady.
Like, what the fuck, man? Like, what is our Western name? Oh, lady.
Well, actually, speaking of...
We put a base warning at the front of it.
Oh, yeah. By the way. So, in 1981, it debuted?
Yeah.
Now 2012.
Did you playing like arcade games back then, or video games in general?
Yeah?
Were you guys playing video games?
1981 when I was like 1
I
year.
was 1 year old. Hard.
So this is way before any of our time. Like, not even before. It was just before I started playing arcade games, I guess. So I was 3 in 81, but I remember the games that were just after that era. I think, so we're kind of the next generation of arcade gamers, I think.
So when did the NES come out?
That was
Still 88, like 85, 84?
Actually, the funny thing is, the Mario Brothers, the first one, when they finally moved it to a what's it called? Moving along was apparently originally on an arcade, not.
Yeah.
No?
So what happens? We've got Donkey Kong the arcade, which is Nintendo was trying to compete with Namco's Pac-Man,
Yep.
and like Pac-Man, I think, is still the highest grossing arcade game ever made. So they didn't really succeed in that. But in doing so, what they did was they created the first ever platform game in Donkey Kong. So like before that, there was no such thing as jumping over things or anything like that. It was like a single screen game, but it was like the grandfather of all platform games.
You know what I'm wondering as well? Like, if that was the first platform game, they must have established that in the platform game you basically run from left to right across the screen. It's always been like that for every other platform game, basically. I wonder if they started out running right to left, then they would all have been like following that layout.
It's
It's true, man. It's totally true. It's just arbitrary.
Yeah.
I can't think of it. I know that I have played games where you move left to right. I know in Wonder Boy, which is just another like a role-playing platform game.
Yeah.
The later ones, some of the levels you go the other way, and it feels kind of weird to do it.
Yeah. Every time you do that, it's like they're fucking with you. Really, like they're like, oh, what the fuck's going on
And
here?
I can't judge the jumps as
Yeah. You just feel like, why am I moving backwards this whole level? This is bizarre.
It's like wiping your ass with your left hand or something,
Very good analogy.
But I mean, even before like Super Mario, there was Donkey Kong, which doesn't scroll at all. It's like one of those single screen games that you go through the level, and then the next level will come up, and it'll be
a little bit
a
harder, a little bit farther.
Yeah, exactly. And so from there, you've got the sequel to Donkey Kong, which is Donkey Kong 2 or whatever.
Creative name.
And yeah, exactly. And eventually we get to Super Mario Brothers, which is not even yet Super Mario Brothers. He's not even developed his superpowers by then.
Yeah,
which is
he's
as an arcade game. Which I don't know. Do you remember playing this, John? Like it's the game where there's a little power block and all these turtles are coming out of.
Yeah. You can get it on Virtual Console, can't you?
It was the multiplayer game in Mario 3 as well.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. Yeah, it was too. Yep.
So these games, even Donkey Kong, it was this was before Nintendo were like really Nazis about their characters and everything, and it was just on everything. It was on the arcades. It was on
It was on Atari.
It was on everything, Atari, and that's when he became the plumber, I think.
In 1983 arcade game Mario Brothers, that one where you can play two players with Mario and his younger brother Luigi, and their family name is Mario.
I think Nintendo realize that every time someone tries to call them Mario or Luigi Mario, it's like that's not his name. He never said that.
Yeah. So yeah, actually,
And
we should mention that Mario was created by the #1 Nintendo guy, the guy who basically created every major Nintendo character, Shigeru Miyamoto, who is the president of Nintendo Tokyo LLC now.
Wii Music.
And it was just that he had no special video game creating powers. He just happened to be like a designer or something at Nintendo, is that right? And he just happened to create Mario and Zelda and...
Exactly. He just happened to do all these things. And...
Yeah.
Because, Nintendo only became a game maker pretty late in their lifestyle, because it's a company that's been around for more than 100 years. And originally they sold rice, or they made playing cards, and I think at one point they were a taxi service.
Yeah, I played a game of cards with some Nintendo playing cards, and it was just like using playing cards.
They did nothing special there.
Nothing special. They didn't glow. They didn't go ding.
Every time you're playing Snap, and it's like, it's a me, it's a me.
So, from Super Mario, from Mario, he becomes a plumber because his job is to, get rid of all the pests that are coming out of the sewers, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah. So he moved to the sewers from the construction yard and got his plumbing ticket. So one day at work, the
got out of all the shit.
Foreman of the construction site said, "Okay, guys, we need a plumber." And Mario said, "It's a me." He just finished his plumbing apprenticeship, and so he went, "All right, go down into the sewers, buddy." Because that's what plumbers do. They go into the sewers, apparently.
They mix things. Like, your toilet is clogged. Let me just go down to sewer.
And it's like, even then, you had these three arcade games, and if you can watch movies and stuff like that from 1981, like when the kids go to the arcades, and the arcades are all weird. Like they're like Centipede and that, what's that, Space Invaders one?
Space Invaders?
Space Invaders, I think that's what it's called.
Space Invaders are.
What's that Invader? Where the space?
And like Brian mentioned, Pac-Man was the number one game, and so Mario he was widely known but not really popular until 1985. So 4 years on, when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out.
Yeah, exactly. See, what Miyamoto was trying to do was he was trying to be like Alfred Hitchcock, where he'd have Mario just appear in everything.
Can I just read a little thing here from Wikipedia? I was looking at Miyamoto's page, and when you're saying he's like Hitchcock, this really sort of captures his storytelling. It says, when the Nintendo company began branching out, Miyamoto imagined many characters and plot concepts, but eventually settled on a love triangle between a gorilla, a carpenter, and a girl.
That's my kind of triangle.
Hitchcock indeed.
It is a classic story.
It's been repeated so many times throughout history. He ripped it off from that Shakespeare tragedy.
That's right.
If anyone watches any Miyamoto interviews or any things keynote speeches he gives, he's always kind of a little bit weird. And it seems now they actually get the CEO of Nintendo to make sure he's always on stage with Miyamoto to quiet it down. So Miyamoto will say something ridiculous, and Iwata will say, shh, quiet.
It's only now that they kind of realize he's a bit of a weirdo. Like donkey relationship didn't set it off back in the before. It was like, this man is a genius.
Now they realized when he announced Wii Music to everyone at E3. You don't really want to announce that.
It's just a tech demo, you idiot. Now they've given Iwata a mute button for his microphone, but it doesn't stop him, he just keeps talking. In 1985, when the Nintendo Entertainment System, for those of you who don't know, it was the NES, came out, and Super Mario Brothers appeared. And I vaguely remember this. There was it was revolutionary at the time. It was just amazing. This side-scrolling platform game.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. Side-scrolling platform games had come out by this stage. Like, if you think about it, coming back to Nintendo trying to compete with Pac-Man, you remember the arcade game Pac-Land? Was out at this stage. And it was starting to, like, the platform genre, the way that we know it now, was kind of starting to pick up, and it wasn't popular yet. It hadn't really, like, kind of gelled with people, because I think everyone wanted to play games like Double Dragon, maybe that might have been out by then, and stuff like that. But this was the beginning, and I think it was because of Mario that the platform game genre really kind of soared with people, because finally it was in your living room. Finally, you could play these arcade quality games.
Well, in that period, actually, there was a problem with the video game industry where it's like attributed to there was too many choices, because there was like 30 million consoles and there was 58 billion games, and with Atari's,
Atari.
Atari, anyone could make a game, and people would just rip off other people's games and change them slightly or put a penis in it, and that was in the new
That was the best game.
A naked woman down the bottom of a building catching semen.
Yeah, beat 'em and eat 'em, man. That was the best. Like, once they're educational into the video game history, look up Beat 'em and Eat 'em on YouTube.
Custer's Last Stand, where the goal of every level is to go and rape the Indian woman.
That was part of the 1983 video game crash.
Yeah,
caused primarily by Atari making being able to make a ton of very, very cheap games.
That's the thing about Atari, though, right? And, honestly, those games are all unplayable. There's nothing that's good on Atari.
Yeah.
But you can't go back and play them now.
They're pretty bad.
I'll park that for later and come back to it. Like, they're all fucking shit.
Why doesn't Nintendo's Virtual Console have Custer's Last Stand and Beat 'em and Eat 'em? But it was dying. The video game industry was about dead. And then Nintendo Entertainment System came out with Super Mario Brothers, and it's attributed with revitalizing, basically saving the video game industry, because there was one clear choice. You go to the shops and you had, there was however many consoles, however many games, but every kid wanted the NES with Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, did you guys have like vivid memories of Mario when it came out though?
Yeah, I really remember. Like, it's really clear to me when that and
yeah, exactly. This is like
the Hedgehog.
We were kind of moving out of the arcade games, and we started to hang out at like the Dick Smiths of the world, or whatever the national equivalent is, and you'd see these consoles hooked up, even Ataris back then.
Yeah.
And seeing Super Mario, and the thing that got me, I remember, was you'd hit a block and like a vine would come out and it'd lead to a whole new secret area, and that just blew my mind back then.
I love that.
This was the start of the douchebag fuckwit who wouldn't give you the controller at Kmart.
There was two kinds of people that came
Genesis
up.
of the
guy
the
who
little
hand over the controller, or there was the one that would finally hand it over. You'd play and you go, "Do you want me to do it for you?" Yeah,
Exactly.
I want you to beat the game for me. Here you go.
Yeah, I'll watch a movie here like this. Yeah.
There was those, and then over in the PC section there was things like Prince of Persia, and no one was over playing the PC games anymore.
See, Prince of
Prince of
Persia,
Persia was pretty awesome though.
that was out already, yeah. So that was another platform game. But the thing that this was like when platform games started to actually scroll as well, So
Yeah.
before that, platform games were just you'd always have a screen, then you get to the edge of the screen, and then be another screen, and so on. And all these changes that were happening in the gaming industry, while all around it, everything else was collapsing. It was just like it was a really weird time, but
It came out on top, and a lot of the other subs, like you go back to that generation, whatever the generation was, third generation. So it's third generation. But people our age even, we're all like in our 30s, don't really even remember the second generation. I don't know what the hell they were. Like the third generation was things like the first Sega and the Atari 7800. And then before that, the second generation was the one that had so many consoles that it was just, it's like Rock Band. They flooded the market and broke the market.
Well, yeah, it was also the software, like as Ben was saying. Look at like Commodore 64, right? They had like 10,000 commercial titles on it.
On tape.
Exactly. And that's the bizarre thing. Like anyone who's really, like, I'm a huge Commodore 64 man, and the coolest thing about the Commodore 64 was that everyone's experience with the system was different, because there was so many fucking games on it that you'd never. Like, I'd say, oh, I played Bert the Bug Bites Back, and everybody else would be like, what the fuck is that?
But everyone's played California games.
Yeah, there was like 5 games that everyone had played, and the rest was just like fucking completely random. Like,
I would argue that one of the best things about playing the Commodore 64 was the anticipation of loading those games for half an hour.
Yeah,
on tape.
Won't it work? Like,
or you could play, and it might even not work.
No, that was cool though, because that was the time you'd go outside.
Yeah, and you'd be talking about the game, like, oh man, we've got the labyrinth. It's up the movie, it's a game. Alright, I'll go make some sandwiches.
I used to have a Sinclair ZX Spectrum, which I think is like a 16K thing from, I don't know, the late 70s or the early 80s. And I remember I used to load those off tapes as well, which would take about 10 to 15 minutes. But I remember you'd set them to run, and if someone happened to walk past and stomp a little bit too hard, the whole thing would just freeze up and you'd have to start again.
I remember that. We had a game on Commodore 64 called Athena, which was a side-scrolling platformer. And halfway through the game, actually, you had to flip the tape over.
Yeah.
And, there's no saves, no nothing like that. So you've got to get through to halfway through the game without dying. And then you've got to flip the tape over, load the second half. And then if someone screwed you up, you'd have to go back to the beginning, wait half an hour again, load the first half, play through the first half again, load the second half. Just because someone walked past or skipped through the room or
just for no reason.
I guess all of this was still better than playing outside, so.
Yeah, that's true,
So that's what we used to do though. I remember putting on a tape, loading up the game, typing in the commands or whatever it was, pressing play as you had to do, and then going outside and then coming back 20 minutes later to see if it was ready. That was like everyone's outside time was.
Just waiting.
There was that, and then back to Nintendo. The console market became possible. People could actually buy consoles, and they knew which console to buy, and it was a Nintendo. And then instead of having to load the tape, all you had to do was go.
Every time.
That totally worked.
I don't really know if it did anything. And then your game would instantly load. It was so exciting! Yes! And then you could play Super Mario World.
But the interesting thing about Super Mario was that, at this stage, I think the Japanese had the Famicom disk system out.
Yeah,
which is like a disk drive for the Famicom, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and Super Mario, I think was supposed to be like the swan song for the Famicom, in preparation for the Famicom disk system. So it was supposed to, even though there wasn't many kind of games out at that stage, I think this was Nintendo kind of going, okay, this is the last cool thing we can put on this system before we start focusing on the disk system.
And then the disc system never made it out of Japan. Nintendo's final game is always the best game on their system.
Yeah, this ended up not being the final game. This ended up
but their first games are always actual games from their last system.
Exactly.
Zelda?
Probably. But like Kirby was the final game of the NES, and that was. You look at that now and you think it's a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
If you
I
don't...
think the NES actually look really, really nice, and early ones look really, really bodge.
Yeah, it's true. Even Mario looked ridiculous when he was.
It does look bodge, and this was a time where there was the NES, Sega Master System war, and I just wondered why anyone would pick the NES, because the Sega Master System looks so much better.
Yeah, it did, for sure. It looked like it had more colours. I don't think it did, but
No.
it had more colours. It had, because it was so much better. And I remember, like, actually, Brian got a Sega Master System, which came with a built-in game, Hang On, and also that weird snail game. If you hold up on the D-pad or whatever it is.
Yeah, that was a racing game, wasn't it?
Yeah, motorbike game, which you beat it and then it starts again. It was one of those games.
It's the reason why it was free.
Yeah. But the Sega Master System too had Alex Kidd in.
Yeah, that was my console. I never had a NES. I had we were too poor to afford such a extravagant purchase. So we got a Master System 2 with Alex Kidd, and that was the game that kept me going for a long time before we got Wonder Boy, which was my next game.
Well, Alex Kidd was originally the Sega. The Alex Kidd was originally the Sega
like mascot.
Challenge to Mario, and he was a dismal failure, and I think it was because they made that simple Sega mistake of churning out too many games again.
What it was with Alex Kidd was that, every game after the first one was supposed to be another game, and then they just tried to chuck Alex Kidd in it.
Yeah, they were all so different.
Every game after the first Alex Kidd, and they're all completely different.
Like, I remember playing Alex Kidd in Miracle World on like my friend's Sega Master System too, because as I mentioned, we had the podgy Hang On version. And then I rushed home and said, we got to get Alex Kidd, and then we got Alex Kidd in Miracle World. No, what was the one, the stars one? You got to find the stars. The stars, yeah. Yeah, and it was so completely different and just nowhere near as good.
Yeah, and then the series just keeps getting weirder and weirder from there. Like, you get like Shinobi World and all these other games, and they're just not obviously Alex Kidd games, and they just tried to chuck his name on everything.
That's when Nintendo watched that, and they did the same thing, but did it better with Super Mario Bros. 2, which was not a Mario game. That was just some other game, and they just whacked Mario in it.
Yeah, and that's the one.
Yeah, exactly. Yumi Kojo, yeah?
Yeah, that was it.
Doki Doki Panic? The old thing. Yeah, so maybe we should talk about, what goes on a little bit with some of these Mario titles a little bit later. So, in 85 we got Super Mario Brothers, and then a year later we've got, in Japan, Super Mario Brothers 2 for the Famicom Disk System. And that is an example of how not to make a fucking game.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 2. Like, outside Japan, we all knew it was Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels, which didn't come out until
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the All Stars collection. That's right. Yep, I remember that very clearly as well. And
the one that no one played.
Fuck it. Like, honestly, that is a turd of a game. If there's one game in the Mario system, like the series, that is shit, that is. Like, I don't care if you can beat that game. You're fucking autistic or something. No,
this is the thing. Like I always say, a hardcore gamer isn't the guy who can top the list in COD. It's the guy who can beat something like Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah,
that's a hardcore fucking game.
It is. Like, have you guys played Super Mario Brothers 2 Japan version? It is like fucking like feces with blood in it, man. It is shit.
Whoa, don't hold back. Tell me what you really think.
Well, actually, I kind of like it. This is what they did with the Super Mario Bros. 2. And there's this whole debate about whether this is the real sequel or Doki Doki Panic is the real sequel. Because, Nintendo said that that Super Mario Bros. 2 was not the planned sequel. It was... they planned to make Doki Doki Panic and as the sequel, but they decided to push out Super Mario Brothers 2 instead, and they gave Doki Doki Panic to some other franchise company, and they chucked their mascots on. And the other side of the story is that this game was a sequel, and apparently it was too hard for the American audience, so they took Doki Doki Panic and made that into the sequel. Like, so there's a bit of like contention about what's the real,
I think-
story, whatever. But the point is that this game is, whether it's a sequel to fucking the first Mario or not, it's a game that should never have been made. It's exactly how not to make a game. Like, you've got this awesome game, Super Mario Brothers, which encourages exploration. You hit all these blocks, and you can warp to all these levels and everything like that. And the enemies they all make sense. And what they do with Super Mario Brothers 2 is they just punish all that shit. They just turn it all on its head. So you're walking along the level, and you hit a block, and a mushroom pops out, and you're like, oh cool, this will make me grow. No, it's a fucking poisonous mushroom that will kill you. You go, all right, fuck, this game is so fucking hard. I just want to get to the end. I try to go to the warp pipes, and which you have to go through like some bullet bill, duck underneath him and do all this crazy shit. Get to the warp pipe. They all go backwards. Like, what the fuck? It's the game that takes everything that the original Mario Brothers did and says, you know what, let's do none of that, and let's, fuck anyone up who tries to do any of that shit.
I don't think I've ever passed a level in
It's a
Super
fucking
Mario.
turd of a game. That's why.
It's also a lazy sequel if you think about it, because it didn't change any of the graphics, it didn't change any of the core gameplay. It just made it harder.
Yeah, and they took the enemies and they, you got these bloopers that are underwater enemies, and they're flying through the fucking sky. It's like Street Fighter 2 Rainbow Edition or whatever. It's fucking nonsense.
It's
a third of the game. Like, seriously.
Cool, man. It was one of those games where you could pick one of the different characters. You could pick to be either Mario, Luigi, Toad, or Princess Toadstool.
No. This is Japan. You can pick Mario or Luigi in Japan Mario World, and it's basically like, Super Mario Brothers. This is another thing. That's another thing that fucking pisses me off about this game, right? Super Mario Brothers. You can play 2 players. You press 1 player or 2 player, which you take turns and you try to get a better score than the other guy or whatever.
Yeah, try and get a little bit further.
No 2 players. No. Mario or shit guy. Like some shit on his feet, and he fucking slides around everywhere.
That's like they maintain that now today. It's funny how this is one of the things with Mario. It's some of the staples. 25 years on, 30 years on, are still there. So if you beat the new Mario games, Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2. You can then play and you got to get all the stars or something. You can then play through it as Luigi.
Yeah, exactly. And
he jumps higher, but he slides everywhere.
Yeah.
He's completely useless, and he makes the game 48 times harder. And then you go into an ice level, and you're like, no, quit, done.
So that's what it was, though. Like, it was like, all right, this game was designed to be for all those guys who mastered Super Mario Brothers, and then you can play. Oh, now try this Super Mario Brothers 2, the even harder version of the game, and then if you even beat that, you can play as Luigi and it'll be even harder. Like, play with the guy with the handicaps or whatever. It's fucking like the ridiculous game, man. Like, seriously. And to top it all off, as fucking retarded as this game is, seriously, it's still the best fucking selling game on the Famicom Disk System in Japan.
Well, Japanese people have a very different idea of what makes a good game.
Is that because it's good, or is that because of the brand, you reckon?
Oh, God, I don't know. No, man, have you played some of those? Like, there's a lot of games that don't come out from Japan into Western countries. And, there was the really high-selling train simulator where you're a guy who drives a train. And you have to...
Sounds awesome.
Passengers. You can't die. The train is almost fully automated. So apparently all you do is watch as the train drives through the train tracks and push a button every time you're coming up to a station.
And then get fired.
And so that was actually a really popular game on one of the consoles or something like that. Can you imagine if that had been released in like America? I'm sure it would have been IGN's first ever 0.0 game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you can still get a game called Train Simulator on Steam for PC.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite like high selling. So I've I remember looking at it and going, "Is this for real?" And watching the gameplay video, and it's literally a train going around a track. And then, but I think it was a good.
Maybe
good price.
people thought it's like training simulator or something.
Maybe just a lot of people want to be train drivers, but they just can't get the job.
Well, I'm wondering if it has like different train characters for different countries, and in Australia you have to be a knob. Get back, please. I can hear the please in your voice, but I'm hearing the words. Skipping right over Brian's arch nemesis of the computer game industry, Super Mario 2. Next game, Super Mario Brothers 3, a game that people...
we have to talk about the other Super Mario Brothers 2. See, the Super Mario Brothers 2 is like, there's two Super Mario Brothers 2, so it's like, already you've got this whole fucking Final Fantasy 13-2 bullshit. It's like...
So there you go.
This is where they took like some other characters and put Mario in it. So they've got this game, Yumi Kojo, Doki Doki Panic, and which obviously for all you guys who are a bit rusty on Japanese is Dream Factory Heart Pounding Panic. So you've got this game, and it's what Americans call, well, what everyone else outside Japan, outside normal countries, called Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah, this is the one I remember.
So did you actually play this back in the day?
I played this, yeah.
Oh, Ed did, yeah. Right.
I played this too.
I didn't have the system, but I played at my stepbrother's place. I remember quite enjoying this game, but it was really different. Like, you go through doors and you see like a negative kind of land on the other side. It was, pretty interesting.
It was really weird. Yeah, I did play it, but not until like much later. And to be honest, like everyone kind of goes on about this game, how good it is, but I think it's kind of shit as well. Like,
I've never ever seen it, let alone played it.
I watched like videos of the original one, and it seems to make sense, like as without the Mario characters. But with the Mario characters, it's like it's too fucking weird, man. Like this is where Birdo came from for starters.
Oh, Birdo, the man who became a woman who became a transvestite.
Another classic story.
Experience standard.
I had a friend who had this, and I remember it was in primary school, and he was American, which made it also, like, it was so amazing and so exotic, because I had no idea what was going on, and like, he was like, oh, I've got this new game, Super Mario Brothers 2. So I went over to his house, and it was like, oh my god, you can actually see Mario and Luigi. Oh, that's what he is. That's what. Oh,
there's so moustache. Oh, I just thought it was a weird slip of the mouse.
And you could pick like Peach and Toad, and they all did different things. And
no, that's the one I played. That's the Lost Levels.
Yeah, that's the one you played. It's like, but it's weird. It's like, it's a puzzle game kind of. Like puzzle platformers were kind of another kind of thing that was picking up back then as well. But this was like, you'd have to pick up bombs and take them to certain places. It totally wasn't a Mario game. Like,
and you had to pick up turnips and stuff. It was
you
pull them out of the ground. It was quite weird.
And each of the different characters could like picked up the vegetables faster or slower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
yeah.
You had to pick like some of them could run faster, some of them could jump higher, some would jump closer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
it was the beginning of Luigi looking like a retard.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the retard
brother.
He's a plumber.
So this is when Mario changed occupations from a plumber to like a horticulturist or something.
So he was down in the sewers and in the morning meetings. I said, look, we need someone to go pick some vegetables, and to me.
Why not?
I can do it. You retard can. I play Luigi.
Plumbing is a shit job.
But yeah, that one was the one that was on that's the Lost Levels, isn't it? That's the one that was on the
No, that's on there as well. They're both on the SNES thing.
I can't remember playing the other one. But that was the one that I've never passed a level on, because I thought that was completely ridiculous. You just want to play Mario. What's this crap with like Toad flying, Toad jumping like he's a turd without any legs?
So,
like
let's have a look at this game, right? You look at Super Mario Brothers, the original, and he did two things. He jumped on guys and he shot fireballs at them.
And he ran.
So they had two things to get right.
Mm-hmm.
And they got none of them right. You don't jump on guys to kill them. What the fuck? throw them at them.
You throw power blocks or something like that, yeah, and then they.
Yeah, that's a block in there, which is like a throwback to the original Mario Brothers before he was pre-Super Mario Brothers. But you what you do is you like pick up enemies and you do like a manpower with them, and then you pick them up and you throw them at other enemies. It's like, it's fucking weird, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah, you could.
And again, Luigi was crap at that. He was the one that took like half an hour to pick them up. Whereas Toad do it in like a split second. Luigi's like,
Toad didn't jump anywhere. It would be like you couldn't get over things and stuff like that because Toad couldn't jump.
But you had to be Toad, because when you went and got those weird potion things, it put you into the opposite level, and you had to pick up the coins. Toad was the only one who could do it because he could pick up the coins in like.
Man, I don't know, because I didn't play it enough. I remember picking Mario and going, hey, this game's weird. I remember picking Luigi and going, now it's retarded. I remember picking Toad, like, why can't he jump? I remember picking Princess Toadstool and went, wow, now it's just got really, really gay.
She was like the best character. She could fly everywhere.
But she's only for that one level with the whales.
How much did you play this game?
Fair bit.
You're the only one.
Alright, Ben, you can tell us. We're amongst friends here. You liked the game, didn't you?
I did, actually. I did.
Loser.
Okay, hold on, let me just go to Skype, kick from group. Well, okay, so we'll gloss over that one and move on to, because this is the thing. Mario has been in, like, more than 50 games. So we obviously...
Mario himself has been like fucking 200 games. Like,
we can't go through every game bit by bit, but what we can do is get to the modern iteration.
Well, there's a few that are important, Like, I think that those three are very important games in the Mario series.
And then Super Mario Brothers 3 is something where it introduced something that, again, holds true today. It introduced the suits. You could get the different kinds of, instead of just getting you hit a block and a toadstool comes out, whatever it's called, whatever it was, a mushroom to make you big. It comes out, and then the next mushroom block will have a flower so you could shoot. Super Mario Brothers 3, which was featured in the movie The Wizard with Fred Savage.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You could also get the what was a raccoon suit?
Yeah, raccoon, and you fly around with your tail flapping around.
Yep, the
that
Tanuki
game is
suit.
huge.
Yeah, that's that game. Everybody was big on Mario at this stage. Everybody was like fucking waiting for the next Mario Brothers. And as you said, the way they announced it was in The Wizard. This is the first time anyone could see the game.
And it has the little kid beat it in 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it had this weird fucking scoring system in The Wizard. Like, it was like some knights running across the screen or something, and whoever got the furthest in the game, and the way that he won it, I think, was he used like a warp pipe.
That he
like that.
Because he was the wizard.
Yeah, and that actually showed everybody, the first glimpse of the game, and so we all got to see like a secret as well when we were watching that movie, And everybody was only watching the movie to see like the new Super Mario Brothers to get a glimpse of it.
Well, Fred Savage was pretty popular at the time from the Wonder Years.
Yeah,
the thing with that is that
the power glove.
The power glove.
I still want a power glove.
Yeah,
I never got one.
Yeah, man. Same.
Pick one. I've got them all. And he opens a thing with like 10 cartridges, and it's like a huge box.
Yeah, he's got like 200 games. He says he actually says the number. Like, I've got a 90 of it. So he's bought every fucking Nintendo game ever made.
It takes up my whole garage. But the thing with Super Mario Brothers 3 and the introduction of the suits is actually, I was playing Little Big Planet on the PS Vita.
Yeah.
And I realized like that game is like, that came out in 2012 or something like that. So you're looking at more than 20, however many years, I can't do math, 30 years on. And you're running. Geez. Yeah, you're still running left to right. You're still jumping on enemies to kill them. And one of the things I noticed is actually you go into levels and you put on suits, and they do different things. Like there's it might be you're in a car or whatever, or a ball, but really it's just a suit. And it's still, I don't know, like how 30 years on, basic fundamentals haven't changed. No one's come up with a better idea.
That's kind of the state of the video game industry, though, right?
They get something.
Doing the same thing.
30 years on, we've still got. We're playing Little Big Planet and thinking, this is just Super Mario Brothers 3.
Well, you know,
it was the
even,
Tanuki suit that was the one you could turn into a raccoon.
yeah, yeah,
And you could turn into a sage-looking statue.
yeah. What does he do? Like smashes enemies or something? I think. Like if you
No,
land-
the enemies just walk past you. That's all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it was great. And Peter don't like that suit because it's killing animals, apparently.
Oh my god!
They protested or something for the new Super Mario Brothers on the 3DS.
Do they realise that they're actually not real animals?
Encourages it, you know. Like,
And
I
encourage,
guess.
me to kill animals so I can skin them, wear my Tanuki suit or whatever the hell it's
It's a suit to do.
I can.
Frog suit as well. You skin frogs and wear it as a suit.
I think there's
Is it also worth saying that like Super Mario Brothers 3 wasn't just a good like Mario game? It also made everyone look at the NES and go, "What the fuck have we been playing? How did we play a system that could do this?" And it wasn't. Like it looked amazing and it played amazing and it has so many complicated things.
It had the
I think you're right there, Ben. Like it's actually like not only did it actually set a lot of standards for like platform games and games in general, it also pushed the system so much further than anything that I had. Like it was so incredible for its time.
and it had
And I think it's like a lot of people's still favorite Mario game in the series.
I think
Mario
it's
3.
because it introduced the world between the world map,
Yeah, the overhead map thing. Yeah.
where you instead of just going from one end of the level to the other, you could then pick which direction you wanted to go, and it had different directions and things like that.
It did a lot for the series and a lot for gaming in general, I think.
So even
And,
those things hold true today, except like they still make sure they always include the world map, even if they're doing the 3D Mario since Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Like even in that, it had the world map where you could pick which way you wanted to go, and there was different choices and everything like that. But now they've moved away from the 3D Mario, which we were talking about the other day, and gone back to retardedness.
Yeah.
I
But
can't.
did you guys ever beat like any of these early Mario games though?
No.
Back in the day?
I beat one, but by using the cheats like going to the world warps.
Yeah,
going
right.
to 8.
Yeah.
But
Was
fuck,
that-
man, don't take that away from me. I was so proud of myself.
the-
I only did it like once or twice, but it was so hard.
No.
And I could
Yeah.
never get there on my own. I had to use the cheats because I don't know, maybe I'm a shit gamer, but
They're not cheats. You saw them in the Wizard. That's how you win the game.
That's right.
yeah.
cheating. Like they're just part of the game. You know, you can play the game in
Yeah.
different ways.
It's not like you're making unlimited lives or anything like that. It's
Yeah, which you can do in the original Mario Brothers as well. Like basically, but you know, to be honest, like these games, this is the end of the hard era for Mario Brothers. Like after this, all the Mario Brothers are just so much easier than these games.
This is where the NES was had the games that were actually legitimately Nintendo hard. They had games. You know, that was the term, and there's no such thing as Nintendo hard anymore. Even Nintendo doesn't make Nintendo hard games anymore. Even their 2D side-scrolling new Super Mario Brothers series is you have unlimited lives. You just you may die, and you may lose all your lives, but then you restart and you're back to where you were. That's not how games were in the olden days.
Yeah.
Lose all your lives, you're back to the beginning.
I think even Super Mario Brothers 3 was like that, wasn't it? Like you had some continues, but they were like finite.
Yeah. You could run out, and you would have to go right back to the beginning and start all over again. And that's why one of the things the warp pipes were especially useful for, to get back up to where you were.
Yeah.
But this was Nintendo hard, and then that was the final game of the series for the NES. Like
Yeah,
game of the
exactly.
Mario series, and then we get to the Super Nintendo. Is Super Mario Land or World?
Super Mario World was the Super NES one. I think that's actually where a lot more people started playing the game, because I think it was even a pack-in with the
You got the SNES pack where you got that and the game.
This was like in 1990, and I think for a lot of people, they don't actually realize that the Super Mario World, they think is a really revolutionary game, but actually it's pretty similar to Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah.
Much better graphics.
It looks a lot better, and you have like Yoshi and all this super weird shit, but flying cape or whatever. It was a bit. It's where Mario started to get a bit like his sexuality got a bit questionable, like at that stage.
That was where Birdo turned into a girl. Yeah, Birdo became a girl.
I don't even know if Birdo's still in the game. I don't know when they started acknowledging Birdo again.
Birdo's in the other franchises like Mario Party and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now he's a transvestite.
He was always a transvestite though. He's like in Japan, I think they call him a transvestite, but in everywhere else in the world, they're like, "Ooh, let's not teach our kids that. Let's hide behind issues."
But I'm sure because he was a girl for a while. Maybe just in America or in our.
Yeah, in America he was a transvestite at first, and then they were like, "No, he's a girl. He's Yoshi's girlfriend."
It goes in the nose. With his tongue.
My sensibilities.
Actually, yeah,
Remember we had Yoshi sounds.
Super Mario World wasn't that much different to Super Mario Brothers 3, and this was when they started going one full game per console kind of thing. They did that for a few.
Yeah.
There was-
Had integrity, man. You mean when Nintendo had integrity?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah.
I don't.
But there was just Super Mario World, and then they did that thing where they released that what was it, the Super Mario pack thingy with all the all of them that we were
All
talking about.
Stars.
Yeah, the All Stars.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really wasn't that much different.
Mario Bros. 2.
The one thing you could do in that was different was play two players at the same time, which wasn't really at the same time.
Take turns, yeah.
Yeah, but it was you walk around the map together and stuff like that, and
Oh yeah, that's right.
Super Mario Bros. 3 as well, but you also got the cool Mario Brothers bonus game for doing that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you walk around the map, you help each other.
Yeah.
See, it's been done before by this stage, and it took until like 96, I think, before they actually did something else to push the series further.
The N64 was when Nintendo wanted to be more powerful than all the other consoles. Instead of making babies' toys compared to the other consoles. So the N64 had the the N64 actually not only had it was when Super Mario went 3D. It also had things like Zelda went 3D and stuff like that. Like it was insane how good Super Mario 64 was.
Probably the last time that Mario really redefined.
Yeah.
Because it did. That 3D
Yeah.
platforming thing was Mario 64.
Exactly, because people tried to do 3D platformers.
Like Abe's Odyssey and they did in that generation. They did they had the 2D side-scrolling platformers that were in 3D.
That idiot that shit game, that really fucking shit game on PlayStation.
Abe's Odyssey.
I like Abe's Odyssey.
I like Abe's Odyssey too. That's
Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot.
Oh yes,
Bandicoot. Yeah, and then
It's
there was
3D, 2D. Like they couldn't work out how to do 3D, so they put like 2 different layers in their 2D or some shit. Oh my god.
there was a couple of other like 3D, view from behind games on the other console.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Mario came out on Nintendo 64 that everyone went, "Oh, that's how you do it."
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't really play a lot of those platform games like Spyro the Dragon and
Yeah,
stuff like.
Fiddles the Dragon.
I couldn't. They were just they really were at times unplayable. Like the camera was awful, and you just miss platforms all the time, and I couldn't play them until Mario.
Now, I remember Mario 64 being at my mate's house, and we would all be taking goes at levels. There was in every level you could collect all of the red coins, and in every level you could collect 100 coins to get an extra star, and in every there was replayability to the levels and everything like that. So we would just spend time playing over and over and over again on the one level, trying to collect all the stars from each level. And
totally.
I moved to even after Mario came out, I moved to any other 3D platformer on the other consoles, and they were all just crap compared to Super 64. But in saying that, you play Super Mario 64 now, and it's crap.
Probably the least blurry looking N64 game.
I love the trees. I remember the trees really clearly. The trees were just 2D. Like, you look at them from front on, and they look like a tree. You walk to the side, and it's like a piece of paper cut into the shape of a tree.
Yeah.
And then,
I think that's when I think that's when I really started to get into Mario, and I went back and played the other games more than experiencing them at the time. But that was when I also decided that I liked Nintendo a lot.
yeah.
With 64.
Well,
That was a great system as well. That had of course, Mario Kart, which is probably my favourite Mario game.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
right.
GoldenEye. It was a great system.
It had a whole bunch of really good.
Yeah, that's the three games it had. Yeah, you pretty much named them all, though.
and
Really.
Zelda Ocarina of Time, man.
Yeah. So the thing, this was when the PlayStation was out, okay? But and the PlayStation was it had all these really epic, big, RPGs and
Yeah, like-
it's really big games. And even though it had Resident Evil and all these games that were just huge. And this is when Nintendo, I think, started to lose its dominance.
Yeah, because people wanted. That was when gaming became cool. Because when we were young and you would have a Sega Master System or a Nintendo at home, you'd not be cool. You'd be a geek. And
Yeah.
you can watch movies like King of Kong, and you can see the people that play those games, and that's what people were like in our primary school days.
Well, check out the NES's commercial for Legend of Zelda, and you'll see the Ninja Gamers. That's what they were.
But then PlayStation came along, and it had things like Resident Evil and Tenchu,
Yeah.
other popular
They
hardcore.
thought of them?
I think you got to look at Final Fantasy VII. When that
It's
came out, that changed everything. That was epic, and that was it was like a film. And even though the graphics themselves wasn't that different from an N64, those fucking cutscenes and
Yeah,
the
exactly.
way it made you
Did
you
it
feel was nothing like that on Nintendo. And
Yep.
and I just don't think. Yeah, that's what Nintendo just sort of dropped the ball, not going with CDs.
Yeah, they used the cartridges, so they had a really limited amount of time, so they couldn't room, and so they couldn't do cutscenes and stuff like that. And even something that was really popular, like GoldenEye, was so much less hardcore than something like Final Fantasy or Resident Evil.
So
But
a lot less impressive, I think, to look at and experience. I think it
Yeah,
was a full game or whatever, but in terms of cinematics and that sort of stuff.
wasn't it? Super Mario 64 was when he got the voice as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Charles Martinez.
It's a me, Mario, and so it's Nintendo 64. Although it was more powerful or whatever, every little kiddie will argue that their console is more powerful to justify. Just it had less storage space on the things, and the hardcore killer apps were really childlike.
Yeah. So
And-
is this where Mario starts to be relevant, though? I wonder. Do you guys think that 64 was huge, but I mean everyone started playing PlayStation.
Yeah,
so
definitely. It's probably the last time that it was relevant.
yeah, their tasting games, people's tasting games started to shift, and they wanted these bigger. More,
It's also the first time, that generation is the first time that you could actually save a game. Before that, you couldn't save any games.
Yeah,
so with a platformer, that made sense. But once you start getting these big games, you can actually save your progress. You could have those bigger, longer games that are more immersive.
So you don't have
that's-
to die and start from the beginning again. And
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So
'Cause-
before this, games were a lot shorter and were harder to compensate, but now it's, as you said, games were bigger and you'd have 40-hour games, 50-hour games.
Yep.
There's the thing in that period, like we were saying before, the 3D platformers and the 2D side-scrolling platformers just weren't good until Super Mario 64 came out and inspired all the rest. And then we moved on to the GameCube. And Super Mario Sunshine was the GameCube release of Mario,
Yep.
but no, that's the least like Mario. It's probably even more
Yeah.
more hated than Brian hates Super Mario 2.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are wrong. We just have to accept that and move on, I think.
That's actually still remains my favorite Mario game, and it's the only one. Like
You're
I got
like a little,
like
little man baby on your back, telling you what to do, whispering in your ear.
I had like 90 stars or something in that. Like, and I was willing to walk around and do those blue coin hunts until I actually started them and realized I was stupid. Spray a very specific spot at a very specific time on the ground or whatever. But, you know, like I was saying before, the things from Mario 3 are still relevant in gaming today and platformers today. Nothing from Super Mario Sunshine comes through in platformers.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
There's no remaining spludging all over the stage.
Yeah, people don't like to ejaculate on things in games for some reason. I just find that completely bizarre, like, honestly. Like,
it's the wall in the corner and...
just over into the corner.
Even Mario games, modern Mario games like, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 are phenomenal games. I'm not allowed to play Super Mario Galaxy 2 because of the swearing. But Mario Sunshine is the only game in the Mario series I can think of where nothing travels through, nothing follows through, you know, like they don't take any of the unique mechanics from Super Mario Sunshine and apply them to games today because it's just something that was, for some unknown reason, considered bad. And then, you know, you move through Super Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, which seriously, they were the Wii's best games out of all the games on Wii.
Totally, yeah.
Combined, like, they were both as good as each other. And then they moved it back 30 years.
That's the weird thing. So, you know, they brought out, somewhere along the line, they brought out New Super Mario Brothers in 2009. I think.
It was actually old Super Mario Brothers.
2006 even, yeah. Sorry. So on the DS. And then they just keep bringing out the new Super Mario Brothers, like, over and over again. And that's when they like I said, they kind of lost their integrity now, and they just, rather than trying to innovate anything, they just recycle the same old series over and over again.
I want, you know, I got the Wii U the other day, and I want a Mario Brothers that makes me want to play it like the Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy make me want to play it. I can't play those new Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
So
I think the only way for them, like, it's hard with a platformer, the only way they can really do it now is they stick Mario in, like, a combat outfit, stick him in a war zone as a FPS character.
I want to play a Mario FPS, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I want to play a Gears of War style Mario
Except,
game.
yeah, he can be shooting mushrooms and shit. Like, it doesn't have to be super violent, but
I reckon they should make Mario Sunshine what it actually is, which is a man on an acid trip running around a town with his cock out, weeing everywhere, bit of Shakespeare cock.
That'd
be awesome. I'd play that game. Running to the children and go...
Right in the face.
but with the Mario voice the whole time, like, I'm gonna piss on you!
Like, all over your face! So, yeah, that's Mario, where we've come full circle. Nintendo has come full circle with Mario, back to New Super Mario Brothers.
But, you know, like, the thing about this, like, you say that you can't really play the new Super Mario Brothers or whatever, but I kind of think, in my opinion, that the series, the 3D Marios and the 2D Marios are just completely different games.
Yeah.
And you kind of go for one or go for the other.
This is like the thing with me is actually I can't really comprehend. You know, I play quite a bit of games or whatever, and I can't really comprehend 2D side-scrolling platformers. That's why I never beat Little Big Planet on PlayStation, and you know I don't get those. Like, you know, you've got things like Explosion Man, which is a really good game, and Limbo and things like that, and you know I just can't play them. They're not my style of games. I can't comprehend them. I can never jump properly. I can never time it right or anything like that. The only game that I actually did beat that I can think of in recent history, a modern 2D side-scrolling platformer, was Braid, which is the ultimate tribute to Mario. The original.
By the way, you say you can't beat Limbo, but you can beat Braid. So hard.
Man, I was Braid for weeks, and I would like. It was funny because it was when I first started going out with my wife as well. And we would be out to dinner on a date, you know, and she'd be talking, and I'd just suddenly go, "That's how you pass that level."
Lateral thinking,
me. Whoops.
Yeah.
That game had, like, even you get to the end of a level and it says, sorry, she's not in this castle, like the original Mario Brothers did.
Yeah, totally.
And that was, the year that came out, that was far and away the best Xbox Live game. It was simply phenomenal. But other than that, I can't do these 2D side-scrolling platforms.
Actually, like the way now that you mention it, I think we see a big resurgence of the platform genre in general. Like there was a time back in the original Super Mario Brothers where the platform genre was just huge. Like every single game that came out was platformer. The same way that every single game that comes out now is like a first-person shooter. But I think now we start to see like this re-emergence of the platform genre as like a kind of a popular genre.
Well, I think it's more to do with the PlayStation Network and the Xbox Live.
Yeah, they can make more games and
they don't really require full disc release games, retail release. So you see, IGN announced their Game of the Year the other day.
Yeah, what was it?
Journey.
Okay.
Which is
good. I like Journey. I really like Journey.
Yeah, I was watching it going, I'd probably play that. It's a 3D platformer.
Yeah.
It beat out
I played it drunk. And it took me till 4 in the morning.
The thing
because it was at the time, it made me feel really emotional.
Like it beat out things Borderlands, Mass Effect 3. I can't remember what else came out this year. But like major games like Borderlands 2, and of course Call of Duty never wins, and Halo 4 came out this year, and it was beaten by a platformer. So you look at these games that are $50 million budgeted games with epic releases and lines around the block and midnight world launches and stuff like that, and some little made by the games who made Flower platform game is the most relevant and best game of the year.
But is Journey like it's not the same sort of platform game as Mario, right? It's not about precision jumping and like testing your skills. It seems to, like, by the way you guys described it, it seems to be more about telling the story.
No, it's not, it doesn't even tell a story. Like, there's no narrative, so to speak. It's all about how you play, and you can't die, and you do a bit of platforming, but there's no real, like, it's not like Mario, it's not Nintendo hard.
Is it like more of an RPG type?
It's not even an RPG, it's just moving around and like just getting through obstacles and trying to get to this point, which is the mountain. The big thing about Journey is that other people play it with you, and you can't talk to them. You
there's no
make a signal.
There's no voice chat in the game.
Which is great. It's so good, because you don't have fuckwits going...
fucking fag. But also you don't invite people to your game or anything, Ben. They just drop in. They just appear, and will suddenly be playing with you.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
In the video review that I was watching yesterday, Ryan Clement said he was playing it, and someone dropped in, and he ended up playing the whole game with the guy, because it's apparently really short. It's only like a couple of hours game if you know what you're doing. And he played the whole game without talking to the guy. But it's a platform, and I think you'll find that there's more and more platform games coming out in the next year that are more relevant and more betters. And basically, they all carry elements of something from Mario that's held true throughout the entire length of gaming, basically.
Yeah. What do you guys think that Mario can kind of learn from these modern platform games? Like we look at things like Little Big Planet, Braid, Rayman Legends is coming out soon. Limbo, Journey, all these games. What do you think? Because Mario, like as we said, he's kind of getting a bit stale with all this rehashed.
I like Ed's Combat Mario.
Different situations.
Well, this is cause
make him gritty, make him violent, make him a psychopath.
Voice break.
It's me, Mario. Fuck you. Because the thing with Mario games now, even prior to the new Super Mario Brothers silliness, in Super Mario Galaxy, he's still using the same tired, old, boring suits.
Yeah,
Even though they're timed now instead of lasting till you get hit. But this is like in Little Big Planet. Your suit is like a car, and it gives you a whole entirely new control system, and the whole level is based around it. So it might be a car that's a triangle, and it's like 3 wheels, one on each point of the triangle, and you've got to like bounce off walls and drive up and down walls and tilt your PlayStation or Vita or whatever like that. Mario never really does things like that.
Yeah, never
always
goes, like, it's always held back a bit, you think?
Yeah, they're stuck in their Nintendo ways where they're unwilling to move forwards, and as you can see by New Super Mario Brothers, they are willing to move really far back.
I think unfortunately Mario's become a lot like a Mickey Mouse character in that he's so branded and so iconic now that Nintendo won't do anything different with him or new with him for fear of damaging that brand. It's just
that's probably
Disney
true,
did with Mickey.
Probably true, and when they release a new Mario game, they know that people know what it is. They'll know that it'll sell a certain amount of copies.
They won't have
So
to have
just-
real things. Like that was the big thing about Super Mario the Sunshine. You had to go through a whole tutorial because it had a completely new control mechanism, a completely new thing. And with the later Marios, it's just you're in and that's it.
Yeah.
The levels.
I guess that's pretty much what Nintendo does with all their games, though. Now, like really, they don't take any brave steps. They kind of just keep recycling the same game over and over again with little tiny changes.
That's why they get it. Well, they did in some. You talk about Mario and his other franchises because it's not just the platformers. There's also Mario Kart. There's even Paper Mario is a platformer, but it's a role-playing game.
Yeah, that's the best series I think in Mario, in my opinion.
And there's also things like Mario Baseball, Mario Tennis. He's in Smash Brothers, and in every one of those series that he's in, there is usually one where they do take a huge giant risk. Like what was that Mario Kart that everyone hated? Double Dash.
Double Dash? Yeah.
That was it went away from the standard, and everyone.
I think people just didn't like the man-on-man action. I think that was the problem.
Humping each other, and it kind of looked a little weird. But like,
it was homophobia.
Everyone
Wario in the back, Toad in the front. There's pedophilia as well.
Everybody talks about how they want Mario to change and it doesn't update, but when they do make a change, it's the one where it's like, oh, no, that's really bad, that's really different, it's got old stuff better than your new stuff kind of situation.
Yeah, I think there's a difference, though, between like taking the Mario platform game and making it like new and different and better, than just like taking a completely different game and going, well, this will sell more if we stick Mario in as the character.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a Mario Tennis is like, okay, so we've got a tennis game, how can we sell it? Like, how about we put Mario in it? That way people buy it. So
there was the guy. Whatever happened to the soccer game?
I like Mario Strikers.
That's it. Yeah, we played that online really with great difficulty. I remember Nintendo Online. It made it Nintendo Hard. That's how they make Nintendo Hard games now. They put them online.
That online connection.
Like, Ben, why are you standing in the corner running upwards? I'm not. I've got the ball and I've just scored 3 goals.
Do you guys think that Mario needs like a more fleshed out storyline experience? Like you look at like something like Braid or Journey or whatever, and not necessarily through cutscenes or anything like that, but just a more emotionally attached experience than what it has to offer now. This little shallow platform game.
Well, I'm experiencing a severe sense of deja vu here. Well, it's.
Let them in on the secret. You're breaking the fourth wall.
The thing is, games like Braid, like I said, I could beat Braid, and I can't beat most of those 2D platformers. And the reason I could beat Braid was because I was so emotionally invested, I guess. I'm not really after a emotional investment in most games with like these lengthy cutscenes, like Metal Gear Solid style or anything like that. But Braid, I was really heavily invested in. So if Mario wanted to target players like me, which the world is all about me, it's going to need something more. I don't know what about you other guys?
Yeah, I think look, I don't get too much out of platform games these days. Mm-hmm. So for me, like I think to have just a platform game that doesn't kind of make you give it like an emotional investment, like by involving you in the story. And again, I'm not too big into cutscenes and that kind of thing either, but it has to give you something apart from just running around and jumping, because you can play iPad games that are like that. You can play a ton of games that are like that. You don't need to buy the latest Mario game to play that kind of game. So I think it has to give you something more.
Ben?
I don't. For a premise that started out with bestiality, I don't think it's going to be a storyline that reinvents the Mario franchise. Or
Nintendo storylines are never that strong anyway, right?
Yeah, it's going to have to do something gameplay based.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that could possibly be that they haven't done before.
It's hard also to get an interesting storyline that's also very kid-friendly, which is really what they are going for. It has to be really G-rated, nothing controversial, bestiality aside, and cross-dressing aside.
Especially with Nintendo, where you can't even say God on their Wii U comments.
and their non-social network.
Oh, they've got an awesome social network now. What are you talking about?
Anti-social network.
It's not anti-social, it's non-social. You're not allowed to talk to anyone.
I think for me personally, games that are heavily focused on storylines, they kind of have this inherent problem where you want to see the storyline to completion. So to do that, you have to have the game to be, not as challenging as you would otherwise.
Yeah.
So actually, I think the kind of Mario with the storyline is actually, if the game is too much about storyline, then I think it has to sacrifice a lot of what makes Mario good, which is, pixel perfect jumping and frustrating challenges that you have to repeat over and over and over again. And I think that could in some ways really hurt the series if they try to go that route.
Well,
I think
all about.
personally go on.
I think it's all about finding that line between presentation of storyline and storyline. The example that I'd like to show is Braid, because Braid has to me the actual perfect presentation for a 2D platformer for how the storyline is presented. Because my favorite storyline. When I play games, I'm not invested in the storyline at all because I don't want to watch cutscenes. Things like that, but like Portal.
I was just going to say
that is absolutely brilliant in its presentation of the storyline.
Yeah.
And I downloaded the song for Rock Band recently, which is just really fun to play.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. But that's obviously a huge game developer, Valve, one of the world's biggest game developers, and they can throw millions of dollars at things like that, even though it is like it was initially just an add-on. But something like Braid, which is an XBLA game, and I think it's now on PSN. That's like the old school kind of gaming where it's like a little developers, a few guys in a garage or whatever, although they probably have an office, and they can come up with things like that. I think Nintendo is always going to be Nintendo, and they're always going to be stuck in that that thing that they're stuck in where they just refuse to progress. And it starts and ends with people like Miyamoto, who's been there for 30 years and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As much
just
as
like old rabbits die hard kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like the old boys club where they don't want to. Like the guy is obviously amazing. He invented Mario. Yeah. He invented Zelda and Donkey Kong. Did he invent Donkey Kong?
Yep.
Yeah, and look how far Donkey Kong is going. Like it's rare, and that was a mistake. But Mario has appeared in hundreds of games, and he's in every Nintendo franchise, and a lot of those franchises are continuing in the major sellers for Nintendo consoles. And even in some cases, like me personally, I have only bought the console for specific Mario type franchises.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of people do that.
But it's not Mario anymore. I don't care about Mario. Like I won't get a Mario game on the Wii U unless it goes back to that
3D Mario.
Yeah.
I do have a theory about the storyline. Right? Going back to Donkey Kong, we talk about how he was like a guy who abused his ape or whatever, and the ape broke out and kidnapped his girlfriend Pauline or whatever. Maybe the whole series, all the way up to this point, is Mario is in this like depressed state, and he's just mapping everything, right? Like the only story that's real is Donkey Kong, But what happens is he doesn't save Pauline, and actually she just gets beaten to death by the ape. So, like, Mario's invented this world with mushrooms, and like we all know what that's all about, and pipes and everything. It's all like this drug-induced world that he's in. He's like in a total depressed state, imagining all these like dragons and stuff, and it's all to deal with, the death of his beloved Pauline.
So the next Mario game that you're suggesting is like a Heavy Rain.
When he comes out of his psychosis.
Where have I been?
Somewhere out there,
Surviving Rehab Simulator. Mario in rehab.
somewhere out there, there's a secret Nintendo document that has the timeline of the Mario storyline and about how much further and further he spiraled into depression. Now he's going back and he's trying to relive the old days through like new Super Mario Brothers. He can't even work out it's actually old Super Mario Brothers. And actually, like the storyline for Mario, I think is a lot deeper than we give it credit for.
It's not about theory. It's just not presented in any way. The only one that had a storyline presented was Mario Sunshine, and that had cutscenes and stuff like that.
Well, if you think about it, Mario is all about unlocking secrets, and maybe the storyline is the biggest secret of them all that you have to unlock.
Well, the only reason I know that Mario Donkey Punch Donkey Kong, inspiring Donkey Kong to kidnap
exactly
the dog, is because of Wikipedia. And I only found that out today. So is it like an internet thing? They've now expanded the storyline onto the internet. Hunt down the clues. Somewhere in Wikipedia. And then one day someone's going to submit it onto Nintendo. They'll go, congratulations, you've won.
Yeah.
Finished the game.
Going back to what Mario can offer, though, like what Mario can learn, I think is that the whole idea of like user-generated content, I think, is long overdue for Mario. Absolutely. Like they've never given, besides like these PC mods that you get, they've never had an official, sanctioned level creation tools or anything like that for Mario. And I think it's 2000, and it's what, how many years after the original Mario, and they still haven't.
That's probably a good idea. I mean, like, how popular is
doing that though? I don't see them doing that because as soon as they do that, someone's going to make a cock, and and Nintendo will not allow any penises on their systems.
Well, they can have a guy whose job it is to go through all the levels and like censor the cocks. I mean, it will be a full-time job for at least one person.
It's on your business card, Dick Censorer.
But the word dick is censored, obviously.
Like censorer. like, cause you look at Little Big Planet. Oh, they can't censor that. Actually, they can only censor it through a reporting system because like something like Little Big Planet, which is not the most popular PlayStation game, not the least popular PlayStation game. It sits somewhere in the middle, and most of the sales have come from packs that are included in Buy a PlayStation Get Little Big Planet. That has like 1 billion levels.
But in terms of like level creation, I mean, how big is Minecraft? And that's just like building block-based worlds, which like the popularity of that game just baffles me. But anyway, like
I've played it.
Oh God. Yeah, but like building Mario levels with blocks is pretty much exactly that. I think that could take off if they build the right kind of support for it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Right, like interface for accessing all the levels, and like Little Big Planet does it amazingly. Like, you get a lot of garbage because reality is people aren't level designers and they can't make levels. But with rating systems or whatever,
exactly.
Yeah. All the good stuff just rises to the top.
They can bring into play all of the many franchises that Mario is in, like the soccer one and the golf one and the tennis. Because like you look at Little Big Planet 2. And there are like even have you guys played Infamous? Infamous 2 has a level creator.
Yeah, right.
And like I play some of the created mission. There's like a Pac-Man mission, and
right.
Reach as Pac-Man. There's a Space Invaders mission and things like that where you've got to hide behind the things and shoot stuff as they're coming down. There's a Galaga mission that I've seen, and like Mario incorporating the ability to make a Mario Strikers style level and a Mario Tennis style level and a Super Smash Brothers style level would make me interested in it. I never make them. I just play.
Yeah, me too. I can't make the levels for shit, but I'd love to see what other people do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Nintendo, and anyone who has much experience with Nintendo knows we don't move forward with Nintendo, we move sideways and backwards only.
It's like a hokey pokey, left foot in, left foot out.
Left foot in, left foot out, step left, step back, step right, step forward, step left, step back, left foot in, right foot, and then everyone just goes, Jesus Christ, come on, guys.
So before we wrap it up, do you guys think that the original Super Mario Brothers, where it all began, is still something that's relevant for people to play today beyond just nostalgic kind of purposes or historical purposes? Do you think that the game still is something you can go back and experience and still enjoy?
It's probably one of the earliest or the oldest games that probably is still playable. Like, there's not much before that. Like you said, with the Atari system, a lot of those games are unplayable. Mario is still playable. Like, the first Super Mario Bros. Is still playable. I don't know. Beyond nostalgia, probably not.
Mm.
Well, Ben?
It's going to be hard for people to want to play it. Like, kids aren't going to want to play it now. And, I mean, besides people playing it for nostalgia, I don't know. It's tough. But it is a good game to play. That being said, it's fun. Like, it's still fun.
Frustratingly fun.
Yeah.
I think Mario, in its original form, like whether it's offered on Virtual Console, and even you can download the original version, or even if you have an NES in your room that it still works, it's not relevant today in its original form. It's completely unplayable. But that said, there's something like 50,000 exact clones of it on iPhone with updated graphics, and in that way, in that form, it's still really relevant in the casual, bash through it with some additions like being able to save where you're at or suspend or whatever. I don't think people in today's day and age, even kids like my 10-year-old won't play Mario. The original Mario, because it's the fact that games have evolved too far. There are games out there from back then that are still relevant today and can still be played by everyone who plays games, but I just think Mario isn't one of them.
Yeah, it's not something you want to sit down in front of your TV and play for a couple of hours, but if you've got 10 minutes on the train on your iPhone or your iPad or whatever it happens to be, then yeah, for sure, it's good for about 10 minutes basically before you remember how far games have come.
Unless you're Brian, which Brian, you should answer your own question. Do you think it's still relevant today?
I think everyone makes valid points that the kind of the way we play games has kind of changed, and we're not really accustomed to kind of a lot of the standards that were around back then, like having to sit through the whole game and play the whole thing in one sitting or whatever. But still, I think for those people who are really hardcore Mario fans, I think the game is still playing these modern Mario games on super hard mode. I think because as the series did progress, we got a lot of features which just inherently made the game easier, like save systems and different power-ups, unlimited lives. And what this original series does, I think, for some people, for a certain type of person out there, is that you can go back and play it now, and it's still about level design, and it's still inherently just the same Mario game that we're playing now. But it's like you have so many restrictions that it can kind of appeal to a certain type of person, I think. Not even someone looking back, wanting to go back and look at it and see where the game's come from. But I think if you look at it like playing a modern Mario on super hard mode without any of the power-ups, and I think if you think about it, if that was a feature in a modern Mario game, like beat the game with 3 lives, no power-ups, I think a lot of people would still want to play that mode. And really, they can go back and play this original Mario Brothers game and experience that.
To have that included in a new Mario game, they would first have to include achievements in a Nintendo system.
Nintendo fans don't want that, do they?
Yeah, well, all 7 left.
Until you get it. Until they get it.
All 7 Nintendo fans that are left. That needs to... Jeez. So, all right, well, that's Mario. I think we'll convene again and
We'll wrap it up here, and then...
Yeah, we'll wrap it up here. That's Mario, and our final thoughts on Mario, I guess, and we'll convene again in probably 1 month and discuss a new, long-lasting. The Legend of Zelda just recently had its 25th anniversary.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
There's Final Fantasy 86, not Part 7 or whatever that's just recently come out.
I see that's the original one on NES. Everyone knows.
That's freaking awful, but we'll get to that one.
We have to all play the first one.
Oh god, no.
We have to finish it, otherwise you're not allowed to.
You have to watch the Dorkly video Final Fantasy Priest of Dicks or whatever it's called.
Before we go, should we just give shout out to anyone who's on the internet in other forms? Should we say, like, I know me and John, we have the DCObook.com. It's the biggest website for DC Universe online out there, most popular website outside the Sony created one.
Yep.
Is anyone else, you got any projects on the internet?
No.
I know, Ben, you and John actually do a website as well about blokes who...
Well, it's a review site. We do have a review site, blokeswhodrinkbeerandwine.com, but it's very rarely updated. And
Well, now that you've said that, I should probably write something.
yeah, write something. We expanded it to include games, movies, everything like that. It's just for guys, and women can read it too.
I just had a bottle of wine that was made by the guy who was the lead singer in Tool, so maybe I'll do that.
Oh, Jesus Christ, give me some.
good,
Then it's got
What's
pedalboard.info is another one.
Yeah, but I haven't updated that in ages, man. I've got no time for that shit.
No, that's the same as our website.
No, because that kind of thing, it requires research and stuff and to put it together, I can't just drink a bottle of wine and go, yeah, that was pretty good.
I might go drink a bottle of wine. So yeah, we'll sign out here. This has been Retro Vertigo, gaming with less than 17 bits, and we'll, I guess we'll see you all in a month. Just a quick shout out to some of the other guys that may or may not appear on here. There's Dan and Craig that you all might meet at some point too. So, see you later, guys. I've been on, and we've hung up.
Bye.
See ya.
Yep.